Democrat House Leader Brooklyn Hakeem, Mr. Sombrero, continues to blame the Republicans for the issues that are occurring with the medical rising cost. With only a few weeks left until Americans will have to decide if they're going to forego medical coverage or pay the high cost, Brooklyn Hakeem continues to point the finger instead of pointing the thumb. Take a listen to Brooklyn Hakeem.
Republicans refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which are going to expire this month. Time has run out on Republicans playing partisan games. We have a discharge petition that if it receives an up or down vote in the House of Representatives, we are confident will pass. But obviously Mike Johnson has zero interest in protecting the health care of the American people. Instead, these extremists are gutting the health care of the people that they represent, including in the state of Louisiana.
Senate Democrats next week will be able to put out a vote for the ACA subsidies. Do you think there's any plan that Republicans would actually get on board with to have a bipartisan bill? And if not, what should Democrats put up on the floor in the Senate?
There are Republicans in the House and the Senate who, during the Trump Republican shutdown, consistently said that once the shutdown ends that they caused, that they'd be willing to address the healthcare crisis that they've created. Most immediately, by extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Now, we hear nothing but crickets from them. It even appears that the Trump administration was ready to put forth a plan that would at least have been worthy of consideration, and that Mike Johnson tanked it. So now, Mike Johnson wants to act like he's the Speaker of the House. Really, when it comes to the health care of the American people and possibly doing something bipartisan, he wants to act like he's in control. When the reality is he's done nothing but bend the knee to Donald Trump since January 20th. I mean, House Republicans have been nothing but a rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda since January 20th. And when it appears that Donald Trump actually might be willing to enter into a good faith bipartisan negotiation to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, House Republicans detonate the agreement. These people aren't serious about anything other than providing massive tax breaks to their billionaire donors. That's not a hypothetical statement. That's not hype. That's not hyperbole. It happened. They enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. They ripped food out of the mouths of hungry children and seniors and veterans this year in their one big ugly bill. $186 billion cut to SNAP. And why did they do all of that? So they could reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. And so the extremists are just showing the American people who they are. And as a result, the only viable path forward, it appears, in the House and in the Senate, is a straight extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Let's see what Senate Democrats put on the floor next week, and we'll continue to press our case on our side of the Capitol.
Thank you, Leader Please. I just wanted to ask if there's been any kind of formal or informal back channeling with Republicans who might be supportive of the discharge petition going on at all?
Well, you had 13 Republicans a few weeks ago indicate in a letter that they wrote to Deputy Speaker Mike Johnson that as soon as their shutdown was over, they wanted to address the Affordable Care Act tax credits. But now it's nothing but silence from these people because they're not serious about helping the American people, the hardworking American taxpayers that they purport to represent. This has become painfully obvious to the American people, which is why Republicans are getting wiped out electorally all across the country, as we saw last month. Literally in every single state in the union, destroyed up and down the ballot across the country. Statewide races to local races and everything in between. The American people are done with these people. They've been a disaster. They lied about fighting to lower the high cost of living. Instead, they've just jammed their extreme right-wing policies down the throats of the American people who are being hurt as a result. And, our view about the situation, as we've repeatedly said, is that we're open to finding a bipartisan path forward. But the extremists continue to refuse to take yes for an answer. They had an opportunity, right, to accept a very reasonable proposal that Leader Schumer put on the table a few weeks ago, which was a straight one-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and then a bipartisan commission to discuss improvements to the health care of the American people over a multi-year period of time. What was objectionable about that? But Republican extremists rejected it because they have no interest in doing anything to make life better for working class Americans, everyday Americans, and hardworking American taxpayers. And that's a shame.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. On the discharge petition, is it your expectation that all House Democrats will sign as of today? I believe 212 of 213 have signed. Is it your expectation that all members of your caucus will sign it? And following up on the question about back channel conversations, is it your position that the fact that the subsidies expire in 30 days, the urgency that you say, the moment requires, is that enough for Republicans to sign on, or will it require some proactive conversations on the part of House Democrats to get them to break ranks with leadership and sign on to this effort?
Well, there certainly haven't been any leadership conversations because Mike Johnson has zero interest in protecting the health care of the American people, and he's repeatedly made that clear. Now, in terms of whether there are conversations member to member between the House Democratic Caucus and members of the House Republican Conference, there certainly have been some informal conversations led by folks like Tom Suozzi, who has floated a 2-year proposal with some modest reforms that we have to take a look at. But there's no indication that even that proposal has support from House Republican leadership. These people have zero interest in making life better for everyday Americans. And they repeatedly make that clear. They're in the face of the American people about it. Meanwhile, you got Donald Trump issuing reckless pardons, destroying half of the White House, bailing out Argentina, posting erratically on Thanksgiving. Like, this guy can't even give us a break on Thanksgiving when we're with our families. And the American people have had enough of it. These people have gone way too far. They've broken every single promise that they've had. And so, I guess we can always hope that there are a handful of Republicans who will actually do what they said that they would do once their shutdown ended, which is to work with Democrats to find a path forward. But that path right now is an extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. I think our discharge petition in record time is now up to about 212, 213. It is my expectation that we will have complete and total unity amongst House Democrats. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Leader. You just mentioned how Republicans are getting wiped out across the country. You've seen that in past elections. What's your expectation tomorrow in Tennessee? Do you think that the Democrat there could potentially pull it off, given the polling that we have seen in recent weeks?
It seems to me that's going to be an unexpectedly close election, a single-digit election. That's shocking. In deep red Tennessee, Mark Green's district. By the way, this is a district literally that Donald Trump just won by 22 points last November. This is not a district that anyone believes should be competitive. No rational person believes this district should be competitive. And yet, it's apparently very competitive. It's going to be a much closer than expected race. Republicans have already lost. The fact that they are spending millions of dollars to hold a seat that Donald Trump just won by 22 points is extraordinary, and more evidence that Republican extremists are completely and totally on the run because they have failed the American people. And it's Democrats who are making the case all over the country that we are actually the ones fighting to lower the high cost of living, fighting to fix our broken healthcare system, and fighting to clean up the type of corruption that has the American people disgusted. What I don't understand is that Republicans keep doubling and tripling down on their extremism, and it ain't working. They are losing all over the place. Donald Trump's approval rating in the most recent Gallup poll is 36%. 60% of the American people disapprove of this guy. He's a disaster. And now the president and Mike Johnson are holding a rally tonight in Mark Green's district that Trump just won by 22 points because they're scared to death about what could happen. If these people, these extremists, were actually rational, instead of doubling and tripling down on their extremism, continuing to lie to the American people, why don't they just change direction and actually partner with Democrats to solve problems on behalf of the American people? When the Congress convened at the start of the year, we made very clear we'll work with anyone, anytime, any place, new administration, other side of the aisle, to make life better for the American people. But Republicans have refused. They've gone down this my way or the highway approach. And we're not down with that, because we're not going to go along to get along when their policies are hurting the American people.
Look like we might be headed for another government shutdown because the Democrats and the Republicans are not willing to work together. And it's mainly because of Donald Trump. The Democrats, again, would rather hurt the American people just to defeat Donald J. Trump. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think there's going to be another government shutdown? Or do you think they're going to come up with an agreement on the medical issues? Drop a comment. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow God, not culture.